Morning, Chair.
Morning, Chairpersons.
Thank you very much. Good morning to the Chair and to your team. Can we start? We will be receiving the annual performance plan and the budget of the South African Human Rights Commission. We have gone through your presentations. They were submitted on time. So we would give you 40 minutes in order to make your presentations because we have already gone through it. Today is our program is highly packed. So we will give you 40 minutes in order to present, and then we will engage with the presentation. Over to you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and thank you for the indication of the time. We, the members of the South African Human Rights Commission, of course, are very pleased to appear before you and to get the opportunity to present our annual performance plan and our budget for 2021-2022. The delegation that I'm coming with should comprise of 4 commissioners, in addition to myself, who are Commissioners Gaum, Commissioner Nissen, Commissioner Malaji, and Commissioner Sibanyoni. As you have seen, we also have the Chief Executive Officer of the Commission, Advocate Tipanyane, and his team. One of them, Mr. Siasanga, will then do the presentation of the annual performance plan, and Advocate Tipanyane will then give the concluding remarks. Chairperson, just briefly, we are pleased that in spite of the challenges that have been posed by coronavirus and the related lockdown, the Commission has been going on and doing its work. You may have probably seen on the media that we recently released the long-awaited report on the Vaal River pollution, and that this actually actuated the Department of Human Settlements, Water and Sanitation to step up and promise more action to deal with the problem of water and sanitation and pollution. The Commission, on the other hand, has identified water and sanitation as a crisis nationally in the country, and therefore special attention is being paid to the problem with a view to tackling it from a national point of view. We were to meet with the Interministerial Committee at some stage, but I think due to COVID-19, that has not yet happened to deal with that. On the other hand, we have recently also taken decisions to litigate, and we have decided to litigate against one of the worst cases of the violation of the right to water and sanitation. We have also intervened in protest and played an important intervention and facilitative role as the Commission. And then Chair will remember that we had also the issue of the refugees that were camped in the church in Cape Town. We spent a lot of hours dealing with that situation. It's still a problem that we are dealing with it, but we are dealing with that problem. We also have been dealing with protest action, and our intervention has actually enabled to bring about peace and averted the usual destruction of property, injury to persons, or even losses of life. And last we were here, we spoke about Senegal. I'm pleased to report that we were able to calm the situation in Senegal. The Minister of Social Security, of State Security was also worried, had also approached us, and we're pleased that we were able to deal with that situation. It is a situation that actually brought up a number of other issues that we are dealing with, issues of hate speech, stock theft, border control, respect for the human rights of farm dwellers and farmers, and many others. Our Free State officers dealing with that. We made, during the lockdown, we have made many interventions with government departments. COCTA, when it came to regulations, COVID-19, COVID-19 regulations, we have intervened with regard to the basic right to education, and we've made quite an impact in that regard also. But what is good, Chairperson, is that we have been able to forge a very good working relationship with the Department of Basic Education. And we are slowly moving in the right direction also with the MECs of education. We also have intervened with DERCO on the cases of South Africans who found themselves stranded outside the country during the hard lockdown. And we're very grateful also to the cooperation that we got from the minister and the department in that situation. We've been involved in a number of webinars nationally as well as internationally. There has been quite an interest from national human rights institutions in the African continent to learn lessons from one another about how national human rights commissions are dealing with COVID-19 related issues. And I'm pleased to say that we're featured in many of those because there's an interest in knowing how the South African Human Rights Commission is dealing with the matter. Even last week, we had one involving the Zimbabwean Human Rights Commission, which they've asked us to come and deal with. We have continued with litigation, but excuse me, on a slower scale. Except that ongoing cases are still going. We're waiting with very eagerly the case, the constitutional case of Kolane, because it has an impact on a lot of other cases that we are dealing with. We have, due to COVID-19, had to expand our cooperation with civil society and also with community radio in order to deal with some of the issues that need to be dealt with, especially in remote areas. And as far as planning for this plan, we have been planning in the context of COVID-19, and it comes with a lot of uncertainty about what's going to happen in future. And so the plans are severely affected by that. Also, we use technology, which means therefore that our communication amongst ourselves has to be facilitated or even constrained by the technology that we use. We have considered different methods of doing our work, especially in respect of the community and public engagements, monitoring visits and inspections and investigations, public engagement methods, so as increasingly interacting through community media and radio. The Commission has endeavored to have a closer working relationship with civil society, and in this regard, we have signed a number of memoranda of understanding. In all this, we have been constrained, of course, in terms of our capacity as commissioners, in the sense that we lost our deputy chairperson on the 10th of October last year. Then two commissioners then went away for a very long period on sick leave. One of them is not yet back. And then one commissioner's term came to an end in end of January. Although one of them has come back, we are significantly challenged by the decrease in number, especially with regard to the issue of governance. Sometimes meetings have to be postponed because of the quorum, because the Act fixes the number of commissioners to be present in that. So while we acknowledge that every effort is made to fill the existing vacancies, we just humbly appeal for the continuation of attention to it, because it has implications. We also are constrained, like many others, by the issue of inadequate resources. The situation has not changed with regard to our resources constraints. And then finally, Chairperson, our monitoring mandate is arguably the most important, and also it's the most adversely affected due to COVID and the lockdown that came, because of the need also to ensure the safety of staff and commissioners. But also the complex nature of monitoring and the various pre-interventions that we need to do, interventions during the investigations, and even after that, it is quite complex and resources demanding. And sometimes we feel that it is very severely challenged, and that the odds exceed our institutional capacity to monitor properly. At the end, Chairperson, I just wish to thank you personally, and to thank each and every member of the Portfolio Committee personally for the support that the Commission has received from the Portfolio Committee. Thank you very much. Mr. Siasanga will follow after me. Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. We shall proceed from here. Good morning, honorable committee members, Chairperson. I just need to quickly put back the screen of the presentation. Just bear with me in terms of my visual, as I am co-hosting and controlling the presentation at the same time. Thank you, Chair. I hope that is back on.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
Thank you, Chairperson. We shall then proceed from the context that has been provided by our Chairperson. We shall then just provide now highlights of our human rights priority areas as identified within the current 5-year strategic planning cycle of the Commission, which runs between the years 2020 to 2025. And some of the areas of priority that we've identified include pro-human rights budgeting, wherein we really would like to see pro-human rights budget spending patterns within the space of the state, as well as compliance with pro-human rights budget policy guidelines. This is what we intend to develop by the end of this 5-year planning cycle. We also have a focus on good governance, anti-corruption, and human rights. As we will note, the situation of corruption in our country is quite challenging, and we would like to see good and clean governance in the public sector in this regard, but also ensure that there is good governance and anti-corruption systems across all spheres of government. In the space of healthcare, with all the challenges experienced therein, the issue of universal access to healthcare is one thing that we'd like to promote, as well as improved provision of services and facilities and so on in the space of health. The areas of education, ensuring that there is universal access to basic education, as well as progressive access to higher education. We are concerned and would like to see improvements in the area of safety and security in all schools, and including especially water and sanitation infrastructure. We hear of stories day in, day out around these kinds of challenges. Issues of social cohesion being promoted, as well as addressing unfair discrimination in schools. On human settlements, water and sanitation, ensuring that social justice is promoted, as well as reducing homelessness and illegal evictions, and ensuring equitable access to water and sanitation. And then the areas of land, food security, and environment, again, the issue of illegal evictions, as well as ensuring increased protections, promoting food security, as well as water resources management, and especially the challenges around climate change initiatives, ensuring that those are being implemented. And lastly, in terms of the areas of priority, is the national preventive mechanism under the optional protocol against torture, compliance with the optional protocol, as well as ensuring that the conditions are improved at all places of deprivation of liberty. We also then do give focus to broadly civil and political rights, ensuring the protection of all civil and political rights enshrined in the Constitution, and that would include some of the work that we've done recently that focuses on the protection of human rights defenders. The next slide actually lists some of the transversal issues or cross-cutting issues that we then give attention to within the context of all the above-mentioned priority areas. We then want to give particular attention to issues of inequality, issues of the rights of children, issues of gender, the rights of persons with disability, older persons, migrants, and a focus on the role of business and human rights in ensuring promotion and protection of rights. Then the next section, we then talk to what is it that we then want to achieve out of those identified human rights priority areas. As the Commission broadly and in general, we have structured the section looking at our 4 programs as we are structured in the Commission. Program 1 being our administration, and wherein we want to maintain and enhance the stability of the institution so that we have adequate capacity to deliver on these blend priorities. And in terms of program 2, which is the promotion of human rights and linked with our promotional constitutional mandate, is really for us to be able to influence policies, legislation, and service delivery improvements that are from a pro-human rights perspective, as well as create awareness of human rights. Program 3 relates to our protection mandate, wherein we really seek to secure appropriate redress where human rights have been violated. And lastly, program 4 is on the monitoring mandate, and here we really seek to ensure that accountability for human rights in the country is actually improved. Then just breaking down in terms of the different programs, when we look at administration and stabilizing the institution and ensuring capacity, what is it that we then focus on that we will do to try and realize this? A focus on good governance and leadership, ensuring that there are good governance practices within the institution so that the institution is well led and well managed. Issues of financial viability and sustainability in the context of shrinking budgets. This has become one of the priority issues to focus on for us as an institution. Human capital management, ensuring that we have adequate capacity, adequate skills as may be required to carry out and deliver relevantly on our mandate. The issue of impact monitoring and evaluation, to be able to assess what impact we're having and where we can fill up performance gaps and ensure improvements so that we impactfully deliver on the mandate. And the issue of information and communications technology in the current stage and age, the issue of the 4th industrial revolution, we need to be able to ensure that we make use of technology to advance human rights. The next slide, two slides or so, they then reflect just a listing of our selected performance indicators and targets in relation to the administration program. I will not go through the list of the indicators. It's really just a list of indicators that then committee members can go through and scrutinize in order for us to achieve and realize the above mentioned. The second program is the promotion of human rights, wherein in order for us to influence policies, legislation, service delivery, and create awareness, some of the key things that we then focus on or do to realize this is strategic stakeholder interventions and engagements with various relevant stakeholders at certain levels in order to achieve this, whether it's for policy formulation, whether it's for legislative changes, and so on. Then we conduct a host of conferences, dialogues, and workshops in this regard as well with various stakeholders, whether it's strategic stakeholders or communities. We also do liaise a lot with the media and communications to ensure our visibility as an institution, but also to create awareness through various media, ensure that we increase issues of readership, viewership, and listenership. We also focus a lot on community empowerment and awareness through various programs and public outreach interventions and engagements. Again, a list of some of the performance indicators and targets in relation to the promotion mandate. You'll see in relation to some conferences, just to highlight the intended racial polarization conference that is to be hosted during the first quarter. We also look at the issues of the gender equality in terms of the Amman Declaration that was signed by the Commission back in 2012. And in the context of the current challenges around gender-based violence and so on, we felt it's necessary that we bring back and show implementation of those resolutions. The issues of functionality of equality courts in the realm and space of ensuring that we address the issues of inequality in the country. An action plan looking at COVID-19, the impact of COVID-19 on children through the form of a conference again. Just to mention some of those that we intend to focus on. We also, just to highlight that, held a conference on corruption in the last quarter of financial year, the ending financial year during March. And the focus going forward, starting from this financial year, will be then to implement the resolutions arising from that conference. We have received a lot of stakeholder interest in collaborating and participating with in this process. And to mention also that the conference was hosted jointly with the Public Protector. The slides, next two slides, I think, they also then just indicate some of the areas and issues we would like to zoom into and focus on in terms of our promotion program. So these are possible areas that we may then focus on. Some of them were already involved in this kind of work. For an example, submissions in terms of the Equality Act, the issue of corruption, as I have mentioned, and a few other issues and items here that were already either already involved in or planning to then take on. Both those slides then provide that kind of a list. Program 3, protection of human rights, and our intended outcome here to provide appropriate redress where rights have been violated. We focus here on ensuring that we finalize and resolve the complaints that are lodged with the Commission on an ongoing basis. We focus on ensuring that our complaints management systems are effective and efficient. We continuously review these to ensure that we manage the complaints processes effectively. We then also do embark on proactive initiatives to ensure addressing the systemic human rights violations in order to prevent and avoid recurrence of violations in certain spaces and areas. An example, as highlighted and mentioned by the chair in the opening, in terms of the issues we dealt with in the Vaal River inquiry. We also then intend to be holding national inquiries. In this year, we will be looking at issues of access to healthcare, as well as the issue of social cohesion in schools. And lastly, the instituting a strategic impact litigation in identified and selected areas, a list of which is provided in the presentation below. Here, the slide lists again the performance indicators in relation to the protection program. And there is a list of some of the areas and issues that we would like to possibly look at in terms of litigation. Those are the two slides. And the final program is our monitoring program. In this program, the intention and aim of the Commission is to improve accountability for human rights. And what we want to do here is to establish a comprehensive, or rather review and ensure that we have a comprehensive human rights monitoring and assessment system. And through that system, in this financial year, the focus will be given to issues of children's rights monitoring. We are currently developing a mapping framework to understand what is going on in the space of children's rights and what monitoring mechanisms exist, so that we can then pick up on that. We also will be focusing on the monitoring of the vaccine rollout during these stages of COVID-19 and the rollout, ensuring that everyone there is equitable access and that it reaches where it is supposed to reach. The issue of schools monitoring, we focused on whether it's in relation to issues of safety during the COVID-19 and the measures put in place to ensure that schooling is not adversely affected. Two issues of infrastructure in schools, the challenges of water and sanitation in schools, the issues of violence in schools, and the like. And lastly, the focus will also be given to the national preventive mechanism in terms of the optional protocol against torture, wherein we look at, we monitor and visit places of deprivation of liberty, whether it's prisons, whether it's older persons' homes, homes for persons with disability, as also places that house children and the youth. Centers. I think we'll also be looking at psychiatric hospitals in this financial year. And then we also do conduct an assessment of the state of human rights, as well as compliance with certain legislative prescripts, including economic and social rights as provided for by our Constitution. We do look at issues of equality in relation to the Equality Act and the state of rights in that regard, civil and political rights, as well as promotion of access to information. And then we also do monitoring in relation to international and regional human rights obligations with respect to the various international conventions and instruments. And that covers then the monitoring program. We then do provide a list of the performance indicators in relation to this program on that slide. And then, Chair, I'm just going to open up in terms of the budget overviews, and I will then invite, after which I will then invite the CEO to proceed with the budget section, and then also to get into our wrap-up and concluding remarks. He may then want to highlight and emphasize some of the areas that we have reflected above. Just in terms of our allocation for this financial year, we are receiving 195 million, which is then also augmented by interest income of R1 million, as well as a surplus rollover of 10 million, which then takes our total budget to 206 million. Let me then invite the CEO chairperson to proceed from here. CEO.
Thank you.
Can you also deal with the issue of your slides?
Thank you, Chairperson. The issue of the slides, sorry, I missed that.
They are not moving, so we do not know.
Oh, Sia, can you please move the slides to the budget slide?
I'm on the budget overview total allocation slide.
Okay.
Are we all there?
No, we can't see it. We only see the chairperson's overview.
Oh no, the slides are moving on my side.
Chair, Wilma here.
Okay.
Okay, no, it's fine, Chair. I see that. I wanted him to move the slides on the screen because it wasn't moving. Thank you, Chair.
Okay.
I just wanted to know what slide are you on now?
That's slide 29. Okay, Chair. Thank you. I got cut off a little bit, and I'm
Sorry,
back.
sorry, CEO. Are the slides back on properly now?
Yes, we can see slide 29.
All right, thank you. Sorry about that. It was moving
Yeah.
on my side. I didn't realize.
Yes. My apologies, Chair. I also got cut off. Can I start first of all, Chair, by also welcoming our newly appointed CFO, Ms. Dikwa, who began this month of April. Sorry, in April. And also thank my colleagues as well for the presentation. So as the slide 29 shows, Chair, that is the total budget we have for this year, including the rollover which we got from Treasury last year. So, Sia, can we move on to the next slide? And then, Chair, this slide is basically an attempt by the Commission to try and reduce spending. And a number of things have been done in this regard in the past. We've frozen a couple of posts, but also relooking into the organizational structure to see how we can make it a bit more efficient and lean. But also we have reduced our office space. We've currently moved into our new offices since last month. And we have reduced our office space from 7,000 square meters to about 2,500 square meters. And therefore, this gives us some savings. And we're busy now renovating the offices. And I've been told that at least from this Friday, we should start, getting our proper services like IT and so forth. So we're trying to stay within the budget despite the implications this has on all of us. So we are due mindful, Chair, of the challenges the country is having around finances. Next slide, Sia. This is just the total breakdown, Chair, across the different cost centers in the commissions. Still, again, personnel costs do take a lot of money for us, but that is the breakdown, Chair. Sia, next slide. Then again, this just gives you a proportional allocation of the budget across the line items, and you can see that we are spending about 66% of our budget on personnel costs, followed by issues around corporate services, office rental, and so forth. Sia, next one. This again then just highlights across the different line items, what we are allocating for finance, human resources, office of the CEO, and NPM, and also special projects of the commission. Sia, next slide. Now, this allocation in terms of the work around promotion of human rights. And again, the allocation for commissioners, the human rights officer, human rights advocacy, as well as the provinces. Next one, Sia. There's also on the protection of human rights. As Sia says, there's a need also for us to do a bit more work around these issues in terms of the high impact litigation. And therefore, this is the allocation which we've given for the protection of human rights. This is our monitoring mandate. Again, we have given 8.6 million here. And as Sia was saying, Chair, we're also trying very hard to improve our monitoring mandate under Section 184 of the Constitution, and we'll be focusing mainly on 3 issues this year: issues of health and education, as well as the NPM in this regard. But this mandate is also quite important to give us necessary intelligence around the work which we need to do. So, Chair, if I may then just add, according to what has been said earlier on by Sia, that following our conference in March this year, there's a lot of work which has to be done around issues of corruption and human rights in view of the impact this has on the realization of human rights. And one of the things we want to focus on is to look into the legal framework around the protection of whistleblowers. And then we'll be having a lot of dialogues around these issues to see, how can we ensure that this regime is much better, because we do need whistleblowers to be protected in order to, fight the war against corruption, which we really regard as tantamount to, a violation, a serious violation of human rights. And then around issues of transversal issues of children, we are about to sign a funding agreement with UNICEF on child rights for this year, which will then help us also to do a lot more work we've been doing around issues of children. And then one other thing I would like to mention is that, following the incidents in Limpopo, where Lena, who was bullied, committed suicide, we're planning a hearing on violence and bullying in schools in the province. And this will also then inform our other interventions as far as the issues of violence in schools is concerned, as well as our work on broader education issues. And then, Chair, I also want to mention the fact that, the NPM has done quite a lot of work over the past 3 years. And this is our last year in terms of the funding cycle, which we've been given for the NPM. So we'll be engaging with Treasury to see exactly what is a way forward as far as these issues are concerned. But we're also engaging with other stakeholders as far as, the future of this important work, which is basically based on the realization of the rights under Section 12 of our Constitution, the rights against torture, cruel, inhuman, and degrading punishment. And then the other challenge for us, Chair, is that how we'll survive the COVID-19 storm. It has really had a major impact on us since last year, March, where much of the time our offices were, our people working from home, commissioners and staff members, and we've been trying a lot to try and keep the organization afloat. Unfortunately, we managed to get, into these digital platforms, which then enable us to, to be able to work from home, and that has managed to keep us going. So we'll need to see now going again forward, how do we, do much better as far as, the challenges around COVID-19. And of course, we are quite grateful that we're also allowed, even during the lockdown periods, that we could actually go around, doing our work. Unfortunately, we lost one staff member due to COVID-19, and a few other staff members and some commissioners actually were affected by this. It continues to be a challenge, but we'll try and make sure that we find better ways of dealing with this. And then, of course, SAHRC has also mentioned the issues of inquiries which we are planning this year. One around issues of racism in schools as well, especially in private schools. That's something which we have to deal with. And of course, our whole monitoring, as SAHRC was saying, around the issues of health, education, that will be going on. Then on the protection mandate, we've been battling to fill the post of the head of legal services. We've been trying to headhunt, but we're actually trying again to make sure that this unit helps us a lot in advancing our work in the protection mandate through a high impact litigation. So we'll try again to find someone who can help us in this very important work, because the prevention of human rights, it relies a lot on making sure that people do not take the violation of human rights as an easy thing to do. There must be a price to pay for those who violate human rights, and this mandate actually helps us in that regard. And then, Chair, with this short few remarks, then let me end here. Then we can then take questions from the members of the committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You are within your time. Thank you very much for that. Also, let me start on behalf of the committee to also pass our deepest condolences to the Human Rights Commission and to the family of the member you lost. May his soul rest in peace. Would also, in that vein, would also like to welcome the new CFO, Ms. Digwa, into the fold. We wish her all the best in her new employment. We are here to support her and the Commission. I will note members who would want to ask questions and or also make comments. I have the following members: Honorable Nivo Drachen, Honorable Ngola, Honorable Glenis Breitenbach, in that order. Honorable Nivo Drachen.
Sorry, Chair, the interpreter was just getting ready. Good morning to everybody. Thank you, Chair. And thank you to the Human Rights Commission for the presentation, and welcome to the new staff members, and condolences for the members who've passed away. Firstly, I would like to say I really appreciate the difficult role that the Human Rights Commission has to play during these difficult times of COVID and having to go out. So we really appreciate your work. I would like to understand, in relation to basic education, what exactly does the Human Rights Commission assist with, other than, the racism in private schools, but what are the other things that the Human Rights Commission assists with? The reason I ask is that I would like to know that, if the Commission has a chance, if they could visit farm schools. I took the opportunity to visit some farm schools, and in one of the schools, they're grade R children, small little kids, and their classroom, the one wall is actually made out of a canvas. It's not a proper solid wall, so they are subject to the weather, and these are really small children. And especially now with winter time, I mean, it's not conducive for children to learn. So in these kind of situations where children are learning outside in the cold, could the Human Rights Commission visit such schools? I would also like to request that the Human Rights Commission visit schools for deaf children. This is a very personal matter for me. Because there are demands that obviously the requirements for using masks during COVID times, but the masks prevent, as a deaf person, they prevent communication. And at the beginning, this was very difficult because, as a deaf person, it was difficult for me to go out because it hampered my communication. So I'd rather stay at home because I knew I can't communicate if the masks are covering the faces. And the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, can that be monitored, and can we see the impact that the mask has on deaf children in the school environment, where it is compulsory for students and the teachers to wear masks? But children need to see the full face, the full facial expressions to be able to communicate. And so the masks are a communication barrier. And yes, it's a necessity to use masks, but we need to weigh up, we need to weigh up that situation. And then the Disability Advisory Committee advises the Commission in terms of human rights. How far are you with that? And also 2021, 2022, the independent monitoring mechanism, is that in place yet, or has that target been removed? I would like to know how far you are with that. And yes, those are my questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Ngola.
Thank you very much, Chair. Let's welcome, Chair, the presentation from the Commission. I've got some few issues, Chair, to raise. The chairperson speaks of the collaboration of the Human Rights Commission with the Department of Basic Education, particularly. In my knowledge, Chair, as well, is that part of the dominant factors that are causing protests across the country is what we call socio-economic rights, which are encapsulated particularly in Section 26 and Section 27 of the Constitution. Amongst those, Chair, is the rights to water and sanitation, human settlements. I just want to mention those who are dominant in the protest across the country. In this collaborative system they have established with the departments that are providing services to our people, have they been able to reach a cooperation agreement or collaboration with the Department of Water and Sanitation, Human Settlements, in terms of ensuring that the rights of our people are not transgressed by these institutions? I've mentioned 26 and 27 in the Bill of Rights. Part of what is a fact is that district municipalities are given the water services function. Have they been able to go to the ground, to those districts, to ensure that they monitor that these rights that are encapsulated in the Bill of Rights are transgressed by the district municipalities, and within the available resources in these district water settlements and sanitation is provided to our people without any prejudice. That's my first point, Chair. The second point, Chair, is that the President has proclaimed gender-based violence and femicide as a second pandemic in the country. And in my own legal knowledge is that basically GBV is a pure transgression of Section 10 and Section 11, the dignity and the right to life. But having been followed these, let me say, popular cases on GBV and femicide, I have not necessarily seen the role the Commission has played in ensuring that the perpetrators that transgresses these two important rights are taken to book. Maybe let me make it this way, Chair, my question. What has been the role of the Commission as it relates to what the President has proclaimed as a second pandemic, which is GBV and femicide? The third issue, Chair, that I would like to raise is we have undertaken as the committee a process of filling vacancies in the Commission. In line of us doing that, part of what was the dominant and widened concern about the Commission is the issue of accessibility and visibility. I heard they say, speaking about awareness campaigns of something of some sort. But the question that I would like to ask, Chair, because in my own view, if the Commission is not accessible to the people, there is no way that we must continue having the Commission as part of our Chapter 9. And for people to gain access to the Commission, it must be visible for people to know that there is a watchdog of human rights in the country called the South African Human Rights Commission. So those two aspects speak on both accessibility and visibility. Have they allocated a budget in advancement of these two important aspects that I think are the core, will assist the core business of the commission? Has there been an allocation towards the achievement of accessibility and visibility of the commission? Another issue, Chair, that I would like to check with the commission. They are speaking of the fourth industrial revolution as a future thing. If I recall properly, Chair, we have arrived in Parliament for the sixth administration in May 2019, sorry. And at our arrival, already in the country, there was a heated discussion on the fourth industrial revolution. Now, we are in 2021 now, but the commission reports to us as though that the fourth industrial revolution is a future concept. In my view, if the commission is able to advance the fourth industrial revolution within its operations, it can be able to assist in a way on the visibility and accessibility. So the question would be, what are the plans to move fast towards the fourth industrial revolution in terms of the operations of the commission? The last of which, Chair, we are speaking of COVID-19 regulations, the pandemic, blah, 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 at which a number of state institutions, government departments, and all arms of the state have directed funds towards COVID-19 related matters. But part of what is not in dispute is, Chair, there is a justifiable transgression of people's rights, which comes in the form of the National Disaster Act. We have seen the tensions in the country when these regulations were introduced by President on the 26th of March 2020. Some were threatening to take government to court for transgressions of this and this, that it is collapsing business, blah, 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 blah. But in that too, Chair, we have not seen the watchdog of human rights playing a central role in ensuring that there is an awareness to our own people on the human rights transgression, that this is a justifiable transgression that is encapsulated in section 36 of the Constitution, the limitation clause. Maybe Chair, put it in a simple way. What has been the role of the Human Rights Commission as it relates to human rights transgression throughout the lockdown that has started on the 26th of March until today, Chair, the 14th of May 2021? Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you. Honorable Bredenbach.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Good morning to everybody. My first question regards OPCAT. OPCAT was ratified in March 2019. The Human Rights Commission is tasked with looking after our business with OPCAT and the National Preventative Mechanism. They received 1.68 million from Justice for this work in the last financial year. I'd like to know what funding is in place for 21-22, and where will it be received from? What are the plans for that? And then an update on the work done in terms of the National Preventative Mechanism, please. The Human Rights Commission has told us, secondly, that they may not be able to meet their POPI obligations. That's somewhat concerning. What is the position? Are they going to be able to meet those requirements? And then what steps have been taken within the Commission to mitigate the effects of COVID-19? I don't really glean that from this document. It must have an effect, and how are they planning to deal with that going forward? And then the Human Rights Commission produced a report on pollution in the Vaal River, which was a very long document, an excellent document in my view, where they mentioned that Gauteng's most vital resource has been irreparably damaged. What is the follow-up on this issue? The Vaal River is, of course, very important to Gauteng, but also to the country. How are they following up on this? Are they monitoring it? What are the plans for that issue? Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Breitenbach. A few questions on my side. The chair raised the point that the IMC has not been able to meet with the Human Rights Commission because of COVID-19. But to the best of my knowledge, we do have other forms of meeting and communications, like this one, the Zoom meeting. Is that the justifiable reason why you were not able to meet with the IMC for such a long time to discuss a very important issue that the honorable members have talked to, the issue relating to water and sanitation? If we could be updated on that so that we can be able to see how do we take it forward. You, in the document, you have also raised the point that you would not be able to meet the POPIA requirements. You might not be able to meet them. So what emergency measures are you putting in place to mitigate against that possible non-compliance with the POPIA Act? And then you also, how much savings have you made from changing offices in terms of rents and cents, from that 7,000 square meters to 2,500 square meters? How much did you save in terms of, or how much are you going to, or how much are you projecting to save in terms of rents and cents, and what will be the impact positively of that to your budget? Your targets are very broad. For instance, we've got broad target of between 80 and 100% implementation. And you know that that is unacceptable to us. We want targets to meet the SMART principle. So next time you come and with very broad targets, it will be difficult for us to approve your plans, because findings which talks